happening now. Hi, everyone. We are live on 24 Authors in 12 Hours. We are getting down to some of our final authors, and it is super exciting as we have this day. And I am here with J.A., or Joe, as he is called, and he is going to be talking about his book, The Bright Silence. So I'd like everyone to welcome Joe. And Joe, while I put your book link into the chat, could you please share what inspired your book?
Yeah, absolutely. So The Bright Silence was influenced by two forces that are reshaping our world. One is AI and the economic paradox that it creates, how automation redefines the value of human labor. The other is the quiet but powerful grip of elite financial networks, cabal-like in their influence, steering society's direction beneath the surface. So I imagined, what would happen if those two collided and this book was born?
That is some pretty scary things that you're talking about there. So as
It is dystopian.
Yes. I will tell you, dystopian. I mean, I live dystopia for the past like 6 months or so. I'm writing some light fiction right now. It's magic and stuff like that because I need to take a break because I'm about halfway through book 2, and I was like, okay, like come back up, see the light, have some fairies and unicorns, and then you can go back to writing really dark stuff, right?
Yeah.
So as you're writing, let's talk a little bit about your writing style.
Mm-hmm.
So as you write, do you map everything out first? Do you kind of just pants it, go by the seat of your pants, or do you do some kind of combination?
It is a combination. Oh, 100%. I tend to outline. I break things apart, I guess you could say, and then kind of go from there. Almost like outlining everything.
Yeah, I love outlines, and then what I find is the characters kind of do their own thing. And one of the authors put it really well one time when she said they just want more page time than I allotted them. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I totally have a diva who did that. Do you have any characters that did that to you?
Somewhat. I mean, the main character definitely takes the page right up until the end, without giving anything away.
So looking at that, and looking at what's out there for the public, this is the whole machine versus man. What is your kind of twist that makes it different than like a traditional Terminator story?
So it's not necessarily that it's the AI that's against mankind. The AI is essentially a tool, just like it is today. In my story, we're only talking about maybe 140 years in the future. But what it's done is, I mean, it's created synthetic beings capable of manipulating 0-point energy. It's revised the entire structure of humanity such that we're ultimately dependent on what they do. It's not so much that it's Terminator, right? Like an AI seeking to annihilate mankind. It's more AI and SI being utilized to corral and control mankind, particularly by external forces. Supposed external forces. That's kind of the premise that I get into.
No, I love the twist, and I think that that's an important thing when you're writing dystopian is adding those twists, having that bit of darkness, but like you said, grounding it in a reality where it's believable, where you're like, it's not that far from the reality that we have now. And especially when you look at like Sam Altman, one of the major creators of large language models that we use now, saying, hey, AI could destroy us all. There's like a doomsday like countdown clock for this, right?
Oh yeah. He just said in his most recent interview, there will not be a person born today onward who will be smarter than AI. He just said that about about the release of 5.0. Yeah, it's wild. It's wild.
Yeah, and I don't like the term smarter because I feel like that is a different term than I always looked at it like yeah, the AI can be as book smart as you want, but I think humans are still going to be more innovative, right? As long as we maintain that mental agility, which a book like yours does. A book like yours is like, oh, let's look at what is the human advantage, right? For
Oh
why
yeah,
are you different than AI?
yeah. I mean, I firmly believe it just will never capture that soul that does require a human. Um, it's I mean, who knows what the future is going to hold, but maybe you can simulate it, but I mean, we're still talking many decades, I'm sure.
I
But
think so as well. Let's talk a little bit about your writing journey. So,
okay.
what inspired you to say, you know what, I have these ideas?
Mhm.
Because so many people are like, I have this idea for a book, and then, well, that's it. But like now you have to take it. Not only do you have to write, but as an indie author, you have to write it, you have to edit it, you have to get it published, and then you have to get out there and market it so people know your book exists. How has this worked for you?
So for me, I've always loved thought experiments. And I really just thought this one, I felt like this one belonged on a page. So if it gets readers thinking about how much influence we really have over the future and the importance of actively taking part in shaping it, then it's done its job.
But what about you as a so like that's kind of like what you readers take away. But for you
Mhm.
as a writer, what was your experience like going through the editing, the publishing, the marketing? Has it been like the journey that you thought it would be, or is this a different journey?
Oh, it's definitely a different journey. I didn't realize
That you'd be
that
here having an interview today, right?
that. Yeah, I mean, before going into it, I thought, oh, if you write a book and it's a good book and people enjoy it, then it'll just kind of sell itself. No, there's a lot more to it than that, and that's it can take as much work as writing the book, really, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think that's a big surprise. And one of the things I encourage people to do, so for those of you out there listening, is the number one gift that you can give an author is write a review on Amazon or Goodreads. And it really shapes the algorithms, and it's funny that you talk about AI controlling us. And, it's really the algorithms that control the books that people see. And so,
Yeah.
super, super important aspect of this is just getting it out there. And your book is available on Kindle Unlimited.
Mhm.
So if people out there have a Kindle Unlimited account, you can download the book for free using the links that are in the comments. So please definitely do that. It's super important to authors to have that feedback. So let's talk about feedback a little bit. Has there been any feedback from either some of your early readers, your editors, or anyone who's read the book where you're like, oh, I didn't see that, or that you had to make a major change as you were in the writing process?
Everyone who read it after it was published, so it wasn't necessarily a matter of making a change um, in the immediate term. But I mean, I have a friend who I mean, pretty much texted me, off and on for 2 days about the story, and she's like, I want to see what happens. You got to write a prequel. You got to. So, that was nice. That was nice, and it falls right back to what you said about it meaning a lot to get those reviews, you know, and
I think super important. And let's talk a little bit about prequels. So you have a book out, and a
mhm,
lot of times I think as writers, we're like, okay, I got my book. I'm done. Like I don't got to write another book like I did the Great American Novel. But then there's something in you as though not like now you're a writer and now you wrote a book, and suddenly you're like, I bet I could do this again. And so, are there future books? Are there prequels? Are there sequels? Are
yes, there'll be
collaborations?
prequels, there'll be sequels. Oh yeah.
And
Oh
do
yeah,
you have a
absolutely.
website we can share? Because I did not get that in captured. If
Is
there's
there a what?
a website that people can go to find out your stuff, or is that
Oh,
still in?
not yet. That's still in process. Everything's just on Amazon right now, Amazon author page and all that.
Okay, I'll make sure I put your Amazon author page out there. And then what I'll say, Joe, is once you get this material, let me know and I can update stuff and make sure it's out there for you so that people are getting the most current information. Because having, like when you fall in love with an author, it's so important that people can be like, oh my gosh, there's a new book coming out. Or one of the things I love is when authors do like a super short like EPUB or something, especially like it's like a little holiday edition or something where you're like, oh, dystopian Christmas, how incredibly bizarre is this, right? So maybe it doesn't fit into the main novel, but maybe it's something of your character sitting around the dystopian Christmas tree exchanging brown bags of MRE food or something.
Um, I I don't know about that, but yes, I do have a short story that I should have ready by Christmas, if not a little bit before. But it'll be a gift to my readers to get an answer, to get a question answered. Let's put it that way.
There you go. A little Christmas gift, a dystopian
Mhm.
Christmas for your readers is super important. So
Yeah.
once you get that, we'll make sure that we put that out there so your readers have it. And
Mhm.
let's talk about influences, right? So when you write dystopian fiction, what movies, books, etc., influenced you in your writing and thinking about this process?
Ooh. I've always loved sci-fi. I've been into. I mean, dystopian. I haven't read a crazy amount, to be honest. But I mean, of course, the classics like Children of Men and a few of those. I mean, of course, the big ones like Dune. Atmospheric. But a lot of my influence just really came from current events. What happens if this comes to an extreme? You know, um,
Yeah,
and
that's
that's
really relevant. That, like you said, current events. That's a lot of what inspired my current work as well. Was kind of looking at like, oh my gosh, these things are happening. All of our data is getting erased. What happens if all of our news, which back in the 80s, 90s, when I was young, we had like a couple major stations and people got the same news. Now you're getting curated news, but now what happens if that curated news is controlled and you're only getting the news that somebody wants you to have?
yeah.
And that's a super scary point.
I kind of took that a bit further with the bright silence in a way. What if um, what if everything about your life was that way? From your day to day, your job, quote unquote, um, your food choices, if you had any choices, your home, everything. What if it was all controlled by an AI? What does that look like in a best case scenario? What does that look like in a worst case scenario?
Yeah, I think that is a super scary aspect, especially when you look at the control and some of the stuff that's been proposed on like, hey, it seems like a good plan. Let's give everybody a smartwatch. And then that smartwatch, though, like that can control your insurance policy. This can control the food that you're allowed to eat. This can control pretty much so many different aspects of your life. Like, hey, guess what, Joe? You didn't work out today. You don't get authorized any food credits.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. You know, um, I mean, it's and you do see uh, portions of that, in certain workplaces. Look at Amazon and a few of the others that they're just like, okay, well, you're supposed to get X done in Y amount of time, and if you don't, then X happens, so many times, that kind of thing.
Well,
So,
and you look at
yeah.
like where we are now with this proposal, like freedom
Mhm.
cities with corporate controlled cities. And then you hearken that back to history when we had, coal towns and mine towns and things like this. It's really there's certainly precedent in human history for this.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely,
Let's talk
absolutely. I
about
mean,
your lead character a little bit. So you decided to write Kaylin, and I love that you have, and I love that Amazon has these features now with the A+ content. And so,
mhm.
you kind of describe her in there. She's kind of like a reluctant heroine. How did you develop this concept, and what made you think of this concept?
So I built Kan as a technician, right? So she's very smart, and very technical, um, but not necessarily like you would think of like some warrior woman kind of situation. I always thought that was a trope, to be honest, and it works in some stories. But I wanted to avoid that with her. I wanted to make her real, make her grounded, as a person, and really, um, have her intelligence and her analytical ability and her technical ability kind of lead. And there's some scenes in there. I mean, there's some violent scenes, and it's a dystopia. It's a survival dystopia. Um, but it doesn't come from a place of you know her all of a sudden going all Marvel, um, on the audience. No, it's more like she does what she has to do in that moment, and I think you know it made her much more grounded than it would have otherwise.
I think an important point, and we've had this conversation a couple times today about the importance of the growth of the character being natural. And like you said, she doesn't suddenly go all Marvel and have superpowers. She's a
Yeah.
grounded human who's then put in a situation that then she's
Mhm.
reacting to.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. 100%. Um, not to give too much away, but I mean, you know, there's probably just as many things, if not more, that she runs from than she fights. And that would be ultimately the reality of the situation when you're faced against a biological anomaly, or a drone that a security drone of some kind with armor on it. Like, you're not just taking that down. You know you got to run.
There's that, and let's talk a little bit about the system piece, because I think one of the things that's super important, and this has come up with a few of the other authors today, and I think when you look at historic dystopia, it's such an important concept of the dogma, like what you're being told, like the AI, the perfect streets, the perfect life, like here's this facade, but then like here's the reality. So how did you construct that as you were building it? Because I think that this is such an important premise to what you built in the
So,
process.
not to go into too much detail, without giving things away, but I mean, I could tell you what I kind of summed it up as in the first two chapters, was that we got that utopia, and we were in it for some time, but mankind became complacent. They stopped paying attention, and that's where the cabals of today, um, start to use the SI, the AI, um, to their advantage to regain control. So it's both paths at once, because we're really at a point, in human history, where we're looking at those exact paths.
And I think that's just such an important concept throughout dystopian books, the very historic ones, like, Brave New World, for instance. I think your book has a bit of that vibe to it, like where everything looks great on the surface, but then you start digging down and you realize the speaker who was on before you, Declan James Mullen, he has a lot of this where here's kind of what you're supposed to look at, but then here's the reality if you kind of veer off the beaten path. And so really common kind of thing in dystopia that I think that world building is so important.
Oh yeah, agreed 100%. There has to be a bit of chaos to it as well. Almost almost like, really like our real world. That bit of chaos, a bit of danger that that goes into that world that caused that dystopian situation. And in this case, it just happens to tie back to our real situation in such a profound way.
A bit of facadism, right? Like, how many times do you go into a meeting and you all know everyone's lying? We all know, like, underlying, like, what's going on, but we all pretend and shake hands and walk away and pretend it's a success, right? And so I think really important. We are wrapping up. So I do want to remind everybody 24 authors in 12 hours is absolutely free for authors to participate. And we do accept donations. So if you want to donate and thank us for hosting these amazing things for this virtual book fair, it would be great. The other thing is we have merch now. Very, very exciting. So if you want to buy a coffee mug or a water bottle or anything to celebrate, and support us at 24 authors in 12 hours. Love that. And then I'm going to shamelessly do a plug for my own book, which, like I said, dystopian, but a very, very different thing. I bring brothels back, which is nice, if you believe in that. And so basically it's a 2055 dystopia, really based on the deletion of data, where data is completely controlled and curated, and figuring out history is what's going to help people to figure out the future. So if you want to download that, it is free today for Kindle download, whether you have Kindle Unlimited or not. Would love to see that. And reminder for Joe, reminder for me, the best gift that you can give an author is a review on Amazon, Goodreads. If you could help us out with that, that is something that we definitely would appreciate. And Joe, before we go ahead and close out this segment and go to the next author, anything that we didn't talk about that you wanted to talk about?
Well, I did mention, that there's a prequel and sequels in the works. So if readers connect with this one, you're signing up for the start of something bigger. And if the first book stays with you, the next ones will push questions even further.
Perfect. And once you get that website, let me know, and we'll make sure that we get it added to our sites.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.